The Las Vegas Raiders continue to make moves. We got players signed on the offensive side of the football, the defensive side of the football, players posting cryptic messages on Instagram, and also a ton of top 30 visits that the Raiders have had that nobody is talking about. By the way, I have a little bit of a throat issue, so we're gonna have a low, quiet style today. Make sure you like and subscribe for more cool Raiders content. So the Raiders have traded Darren Waller. Wedding gate has happened, and that was controversial, and we've been wondering how are the Raiders going to move forward, and I believe they did a nice job. Foster Moreau tested free agency, no longer with the team. Last I heard he was visiting the Saints, but bam, out of nowhere, the Raiders went and signed O.J. Howard, and now they have completed the tight end room by signing Austin Hooper here, the former Pro Bowler with the Atlanta Falcons, drafted in the 3rd round of 2016. So Hooper, O.J. Howard, and Jesper Horsted. This is the room that is going to replace Darren Waller, and I actually think it's a great tight end room with a lot of depth. And Austin Hooper is low-key a good signing. He's going to be making up to $3.5 million this year. Hooper did some great things in Atlanta, like making the Pro Bowl twice, having a high of 787 yards in the 2019 season, along with 6 touchdowns in that single season. After 4 years in Atlanta, he would go on to test free agency and sign a 4-year contract in 2020 with the Cleveland Browns at $44 million. Unfortunately, he would never really pop with the Browns. We don't know if it's because of the fact that Baker Mayfield and the Browns are kind of unstable during this time, and also David Njoku at tight end for the Browns kind of made Austin Hooper expendable. And so Hooper would ultimately be released after the 2021 season by the Browns and then sign a contract for the 2022 season with the Tennessee Titans, a 1-year deal. And last year, Hooper did not do much with the Tennessee Titans, but they're kind of like the Cleveland Browns. They don't really have a stable relationship between their franchise and their quarterback. A lot of people think the Tennessee Titans are going to move on from Ryan Tannehill. So 2 touchdowns and 444 yards, despite the fact that you were with the struggling Tennessee Titans team last year. That is still pretty impressive. And here's the thing, the Raiders have invested heavily at wide receiver, especially if they hold on to Hunter Renfrow. Don't really know what's going on there. It is possible for them to get out of Hunter Renfrow's contract and not eat too much dead money. That is still a possibility, and right now they have Jacoby Myers and Devontae Adams, and we know Myers is making roughly $11 million a year. Adams is making his huge contract, recently signed Cam Sims, Keelan Cole, and especially if they keep Hunter Renfrow, they don't really need dominant tight ends right now. And do I think Austin Hooper alone can replace somebody like Darren Waller? No, but I do think the combination of Hooper with O.J. Howard and Jesper Horsted will be enough depth for the Raiders, especially given the fact that the Raiders have invested heavily at wide receiver. And keep in mind, the Patriots' 2019 offense did not feature a dynamic tight end. They had players like Ryan Izzo start at tight end and invested heavily at wide receiver. The Raiders are adding to their defense, and they have signed David Long Jr. right here, the former LA Ram. David Long Jr. was a guy who really only started getting an opportunity recently. 5'11", drafted in 2019 in the 3rd round by the LA Rams, opposite Jalen Ramsey, especially in 2021 when he had to fill in due to injuries, and that was the year they went on to win the Super Bowl. So this guy is technically a former Super Bowl champion. 2022, he had his snaps cut down, but I kind of like this investment. I like this move here by the Raiders. I think it's going to be a low risk move. I don't think this is going to be a move that completely breaks the bank, and this is one of those moves where this guy could either pop or he can just be a 1-year contract, a cheap vet, bridge player, going to find the next guy in the future. But contracts like this, Brandon Faison, Robert Spillane at linebacker, and now David Long Jr. These are the type of interesting deals I like seeing the Raiders do, investing in a guy that you saw play a lot recently for the first time, roughly 25 years old. I think this is one of those moves that's a low risk move and could potentially pop off. So I actually really do like the signing by Dave Ziegler and the Raiders here. I think the cornerback room could be sneaky. You saw Rock Ya-Sin last year be a guy who was only a 1-year contract and ended up being pretty decent for the Raiders. We know he dealt with injury problems. He's been visiting the Ravens lately. We'll see what happens there, but maybe the Raiders are going to try to replicate what they did last year, not invest too much long-term at cornerback and try to find guys who could be diamonds in the rough. I think Tyler Hall was one of those guys last year, played a lot in the slot. David Long Jr., this guy's going to be playing outside. Rarely does he play in the slot. Speaking of former Raiders, Jonathan Abram has signed with the New Orleans Saints, so he will be joining Derek Carr there. And you also have Denzel Perryman, the linebacker, former Pro Bowler for the Raiders after the 2020 2021 season, signing with the Houston Texans. I remember seeing this guy last year handing out free turkeys on Instagram Live to whoever would meet up with him in Vegas. Seems like a really great guy. And the Raiders have had a lot of top 30 visits so far. What does this mean? These are people who visit the facility, do interviews with the Raiders, and you're only allowed 30 of them every year for the draft. And speaking of cornerback, they've had Alex Austin at Oregon State, along with Ringo from Georgia and Julius Brents from Kansas State, but this guy has met with tons and tons of teams. And what's really interesting is quarterback, meeting with Anthony Richardson. Yes, a lot of teams have met with him, and also CJ Stroud, but the Panthers have the #1 overall pick, and based on body language, I'm pretty sure they're going to draft CJ Stroud with the first pick. However, the Raiders have also met with Jake Haener, and only the Buccaneers have also met with Jake Haener along with Tanner McKee. So looking at a quarterback and maybe the second or third round. And then also Tyree Wilson, edge defender. The Raiders have met with him. I think they could maybe take this guy at pick #7. But keep in mind, out of all the top 30 visits last year, the Raiders drafted nobody from their top 30 visits. One guy who may need to pay the Raiders a visit soon is Josh Jacobs to iron out a new contract. We know this guy does not want to play on the franchise tag, but I think he will because it is a lot of money. It's over $10 million for one season. But Jacobs posting more messages on the internet. Crazy how a lie can make you change your whole perspective about a mother effer. And a lot of people say, oh, this could be about Jacobs' personal lives. Guys, let's get real here, man. Football and this industry is one of the most important things in these guys' lives. These guys who are professionals, everything they do on social media, I believe is calculated. I believe their job has an impact on their mind, and that is what they're thinking about. So do I think Jacobs is going to put a message out here if it's not related to football, if it's about, I don't know, some romantic thing? No, I highly doubt it. So I think this is about football. If I had to guess, I would think maybe the Darren Waller situation, because we know there's been rumors circulated by Michael Lombardi about Darren Waller, about the fact that he, dipped out on rehab on the bye week. We don't know if this is true. Waller's obviously not going to say anything. He's employed by the Giants right now. So maybe this could be about that. We know Jacobs wanted the Raiders to build the team around him and him not have to be the hero, and he would have been open to playing on the tag if that was the case. But maybe Jacobs doesn't think that's the case. Who knows? Maybe the Raiders will change his mind and maybe he'll just play on the tag anyways. I don't know, but this is something to monitor. And another thing to monitor is Jimmy G in Vegas. There are some crazy things happening already. He's offered free for life, free intimate services for life at a nearby house, a ranch of some sort. There's been two lovely ladies, Caitlin Bell and Alice Little, who were very stoked that Jimmy Garoppolo is now the quarterback for the Raiders. So I don't know if he is going to be scoring touchdowns, with the Raiders, but I think he will at least score in different ways in Las Vegas. And look, I am open to the possibility that Josh McDaniels is able to unleash the best out of Jimmy Garoppolo. He's really only been in the Patriots scheme and then also the San Francisco 49ers. And he does have a lot of weapons. He does have a decent O-line. And if Jacobs comes back, he has a great run game. So the expectations should be high. And maybe McDaniels will work better with Jimmy Garoppolo. The offense was not entirely bad last year. We just blew leads in critical moments. And to me, that falls on coaching. But the coach now thinks he'll have that fixed with this new quarterback. And hopefully they have a great year this year for all the Raiders fans across the world. Either way, let me know how you feel about these signings and feel about the roster heading into the draft. I think the Raiders are in a good position where you don't know exactly where they're going to go in the draft because they have a lot of bases covered in a lot of areas. Check out some of our other content on the Raiders that you may have missed on our page. Subscribe to this channel for more videos like this. My name is WiFiWillie. Peace out, and I hope you have a good one.